Ancient China is one of those civilizations everybody thinks that they understand. They've heard the names, the Great Wall. They've seen a few quotes from Confucian, slapped on posters and social media graphics, but most of that doesn't actually explain how ancient China worked. And that's the part that matters. Ancient China didn't survive for centuries because it was mystical. It didn't survive because it was enlightened or lucky. It survived because it built systems that absorbed failure instead of completely collapsing under it. And once you understand that, a lot of things really, really start to make sense. Ancient China was massive. I mean, geographically, culturally, and demographically, you're talking about huge river systems, unpredictable flooding, fertile land that could feed millions, and constant environmental pressure. The Yellow River alone earned the nickname China's Sorrow because it flooded all the time. Sometimes it fed the land, other times it just completely wiped out entire regions. That kind of environment doesn't reward independence. It rewards coordination. You can't manage floods, irrigation, food storage, and disaster response with small, disconnected groups. You need some serious planning. You need records. You need people whose entire job is making sure things don't fall apart. And that's where centralized systems actually come from. Not because rulers really love control, but because chaos was always, in China's case, just one flood away. Over time, that need for coordination turned into bureaucracy. They got officials, paperwork, rules that applied everywhere, not just locally. Power, it stopped being personal and became more of a procedure. Emperors mattered, but the system mattered more. And that's why the dynasties could fall without the entire civilization collapsing. So when leadership failed, the structure stayed the same. And when the structure stayed, the civilization could reset instead of starting from scratch. And that's where ideas like the mandate of heaven come in. That's where rulers weren't gods with permanent authority like in Egypt, but their legitimacy was conditional. If things went well, heaven approved. If famine, corruption, and chaos spread, heaven had clearly moved on from you. And that belief did something subtle but very, very powerful. It explained change without, destroying continuity. Rebellion, it wasn't framed as pure chaos. It was framed as more of a correction. And that allowed ancient China to replace the leadership while keeping the institutions intact. Something most civilizations never really figured out how to do. So, somebody came in, took over, everything changed, right? But another key piece of the system was education. Ancient China didn't rely entirely on just bloodlines or military power to govern and rule. It developed civil service exams, which is a way to turn knowledge into authority. In theory, anybody who passed could enter government service. And in practice, access wasn't equal. Education favored the wealthy, like it always does, right? But the idea itself was revolutionary. It meant governing was a skill, not just a birthright. It also reinforced conformity. Exams rewarded memorization, discipline, and accepted ideas. Like innovation mattered less than reliability. That trade-off shaped Chinese culture for centuries. Stability was prioritized over disruption. And then there's, Confucianism. When people hear about honor in ancient China, they often imagine glory or personal achievement. That's not what honor meant. Honor was behavioral. It was about fulfilling your role as a parent, a child, a ruler, a subject. Family wasn't just emotional support either. It was moral structure. So your actions reflected on your ancestors and your descendants. Shame was not personal. It spread. And that created, powerful social pressure to conform without constant enforcement. So when belief worked, order maintained itself. When belief failed, legalism stepped in. Legalism wasn't about virtue, it was about results. Clear laws, strict punishments, absolutely no exceptions. Break the rule, you get punished. Follow the rules, then you get rewarded. Simple, easy, effective. Intent didn't matter. Legalism was brutal, but it was effective during the times of chaos. Ancient China didn't treat philosophy as sacred. It kind of treated it as a tool. So when honor worked, they used it. When it didn't, the law took over. And that flexibility is why the civilization lasted as long as it did. Ancient China didn't cling to one idea forever. It adjusted throughout time. Sometimes morality guided behavior, sometimes fear enforced order, and sometimes power tightened. But, sometimes it loosened. But the goal was always the same: prevent this place from collapsing. And that's why ancient China is often misunderstood. Western history tends to focus on like individual heroes, dramatic revolutions, and total collapse. Because let's be honest, Western history loves drama. But Chinese history focused on continuity. Replace leadership, keep the system, move forward. It wasn't trying to impress anybody. It was just trying to work. Ancient China didn't last because it avoided failure. It lasted because it learned how to survive failure. And once you see that, it stops feeling so mysterious and it starts feeling more deliberate. And once you see it that way, a lot of things click. Ancient China was not frozen in time. It was constantly adjusting, correcting, and moving forward. I mean, that's not ancient wisdom. That's practical thinking.